Well, Christmas is come and gone. It's the final day of the year, and 2025 is basically here, meaning it's time to go back and sim through the year that was 2024 and the great things MLB gave us through it all. I've never done one of these videos before, but felt it would be fun to go back and rank, or at the very least list the top moments of the year. Obviously, there were tons and tons and tons of moments, so it'll be tough to narrow it down to 10. But I'm going to do it, or at least think I'm doing it. Really quick, as always, if you're part of the 59% of viewers not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that button if you enjoy the videos, as the way I look at moments are comebacks and games that ended in a big and magical way, and mainly teams that, for the lack of a better way of saying it, mattered in 2024. Because even though there were some great games and finishes throughout the entire league all year long, I'm going to feel like it's a safe bet you don't care much about, I don't know, the Marlins' ninth inning comeback against the Rockies on April 30th. You probably didn't even remember or know that was even a thing until just now, but you get the idea. So here we go. My top 10 moments of 2024, starting from the bottom, but I gotta start with a moment that didn't quite make my top 10, but was still too good to not mention, and that's when the A's announcer told Jose Siri it wasn't his night, only for him to hit a game-tying home run literally 8 seconds later on the next pitch.
Hey Siri, it's not your night. 0-1, and that's launched towards left field, and the payback comes at the bat of Jose Siri.
Okay, now we go to my top 10 starting from the bottom. Number 10. This has to be, for me, the most underrated moment of the entire year. It's at the very least high up there, but this was crazy. And the reason why it was so crazy was because of how sudden and just unexpected it was. Like, it happened absolutely out of nowhere. The Padres were taking on the Tigers in San Diego in early September, and at this point, nobody was really thinking Detroit had much of a chance to go to the playoffs. The Padres were well on their way, but the Tigers were exactly a 500 team. So even with the lousy division they're in, I mean, it's hard to take a 500 team in September very seriously. The Padres and Tigers obviously aren't rivals or anything, so at the time this just seemed like some game that would wound up meaningless looking back. But little did we all know at the time, this was a sign of great things for the Tigers. But in the moment, all looked to be was the Padres rolling on to another win. A couple of Padres homers put them up 3-0 early, and even though Martin Perez, who wasn't very good, started the game for San Diego, he and the Padres pitching dominated. Perez went 6 shutout innings. The Padres bullpen kept the Tigers scoreless through the ninth, as remember, at this point, the Padres bullpen was lights out by the end of it. They already had Roberto Suarez as their closer before adding a couple elite relievers at the deadline, and considering the Tigers lineup wasn't very strong, I mean, it's all but over. Suarez comes in for the ninth, up 3 runs. I mean, if you're a fan of either team, might as well turn the game off. I mean, even when Suarez struggled and the Tigers got some guys on in the ninth, nobody's really believing they had a chance. So they find a way to load up the bases, but there's now 2 outs. Suarez just struck out Kerry Carpenter, Detroit's best hitter, for the second out. Everyone's on their feet. He's got 2 strikes on Parker Meadows and fires a 101-mile-an-hour fastball for strike 3, except Meadows takes the ball exactly where it's pitched, lifting it up and just over the left field wall for a grand slam. Just like that. Tigers hadn't led at all until they were a strike away from losing, down 3 runs until now. And fittingly, Meadows is the man who ends the game with the final catch to give Detroit the win. I think this game is the perfect metaphor for how the Tigers' season was. You didn't really notice them or see them coming until the very end, and then all of a sudden they're ahead, and by season's end, in the playoffs. Number 9. Paul Skeens had a ton of insane moments this year. It was the greatest season ever, honestly, for a player with the hype that he had. I mean, there were what you could argue unrealistic expectations for Skeens when he was called up, only for him to end up exceeding them and make MLB look no different than AA. It was insane. No matter how long the season kept going, Skeens never slowed down, but the one moment I'm picking is his second start ever. His first start was kind of lousy, but it wasn't even bad, and it wasn't really his fault at all. He showed his potential, and the Cubs didn't hit him very hard, but the rain came falling early. The Pirates' bullpen walked the bases loaded 4 times in a row. The game soon then got delayed. It was a disaster. But days later, now in Chicago, Skeens got a better, more fair shot to do his thing. And in just his second ever big league start, Paul Skeens started out the game with 7 straight strikeouts and didn't allow a single hit through 6, racking up 11 strikeouts on the day. It was at this moment we all truly saw what he was about to do for the rest of the season, and it's all he did, dominated. But it started with that game by making the Cubs, who had already faced Paul Skeens, look like little leaguers. Forget any adjustments. Number 8. The Mariners' biggest issue in 2024 was the hitting. They just didn't hit. And then the one game they do hit and score 9 runs, the pitching melts down. That's the Mariners in a nutshell. The baseball gods had a fun time messing with them this year. and hell, since the beginning of the franchise's existence, not just 2024. But in this game in particular, the Mariners were in Kansas City. If you woke up from a coma and turned this game on, you'd think the Mariners had the best lineup in baseball. They jumped out and scored 7 runs to begin the game. Before the Royals could even get 3 outs and hit, Seattle was up 7-0. And again, with the way the Mariners pitching was, this game is beyond over. But despite immediately getting 7 runs, the Mariners got just a couple the rest of the way while the Royals kept chipping away bit by bit. A big 3-run bomb that cut the previous 8-run lead the Mariners had in half. Mariners get another one, but the Royals just wouldn't stop. 3 more runs make it 9-6 in the 6th. Royals eventually get another, but by the 9th inning, they're still down. It's 9-7. And I remember watching this game, just getting the feeling the Mariners were screwed. Like, it was so inevitable. You could just feel it. Leadoff walks are the definition of playing with fire, and the Royals just took control from there, but a lot of it was classic Royals. Nothing crazy. Putting the ball in play, forcing the Mariners to make plays that they wouldn't make. Grounder gets the run home, but also the first out of the inning, 9-8. Here comes Bobby Witt Jr., who then slams a triple to tie it, and just like that, the Royals are in the driver's seat, 90 feet away from a win. They put Salvi on first, and the winning run comes home, just like, again, the classic Royal way. Nelson Velazquez just puts the ball in play to force the Mariners to make a play, and it was a great play by J.P. Crawford for the out at second, but he just couldn't quite get it done fast enough for the double play. Game over, Royals win, wild game. Number 7. This wasn't necessarily a crazy game or anything. It was between the 4th place A's and 3rd place Rangers. A clean game played by Oakland to win, but this was more than just a game. It was the final game ever to be played at the Oakland Coliseum before the A's sadly leave for Sacramento before Vegas. At least that's the plan. Again, it wasn't really anything in the game specifically that was too memorable, more so than now late Ricky Henderson throwing out the first pitch alongside former teammate and best friend Dave Stewart, 2 A's legends. There were multiple delays before the final out could be recorded, but once that final out was recorded by Mason Miller, the emotions only continued. The manager, Mark Kotsay, would give a heartfelt speech to the sold-out crowd. It was just an emotional day from start to finish. Historic. Unfortunate circumstances, obviously, and for that reason, I think it's a top moment of 2024. Number 6. We're almost to the playoff games, but before that, we basically had a playoff game between the Mets and Braves, so this was a unique situation. 3 teams were still in the hunt for the playoffs, even after the final day of the season. The Braves, the D-backs, and Mets. 2 of the 3 were going to make it, and it all would be up to the Braves and Mets making up 2 postponed games in Atlanta, while the D-backs could only sit back and watch their fate. Their way to the playoffs would have been for the Braves or Mets to win both games in the doubleheader. It wouldn't matter who, just a doubleheader sweep was needed, period. But if they split, both the Braves and Mets would make it while the D-backs miss out. And that's exactly what ended up happening. But game 1 ended up going down as maybe the best game of the season. Ozzie Albies and Ramon Laureano put the Braves up 3-0. Rookie Spencer Schwellenbach, the most German man in baseball, held the Mets down through 7 innings, just dominated before getting taken out after a leadoff double by Tyrone Taylor. Ensue the chaos. The Mets went on to just pummel the Braves bullpen, hit after hit after hit after hit, tying the game before the Braves got an out, taking the lead on a sac fly before Brandon Nimmo went boom. And just like that, an inning that started off with the Braves up 3-0 was now 6-3 Mets. Unreal. But the fun was only beginning. Jared Kelenic gets to first base with 2 outs and 2 guys on, so a run scores. It's 6-4. They intentionally walk Michael Harris to face the right-handed Ozzie Albies with 2 outs. He was usually a switch hitter, but he was only hitting right-handed right now because of an injury, but he also went deep earlier from the right side, and he didn't go deep again this time. But how about a 3-run bases-clearing double to put the Braves back on top? The crowd's going nuts, and before we as fans could even process what had just happened in the 8th inning as a whole, Francisco Lindor follows up a 2-strike, 1-out Starling Marte base hit with a 2-run homer to put the Mets back on top in the 9th. Just unreal. And with the tying run at second in the bottom of the inning, Lindor gets a routine grounder to end the game and clinch the postseason for the Mets. I still don't fully believe this game was even real. Number 5. The Mets' double comeback against the Braves was just the beginning. With the Mets and Brewers tied at a game apiece for a winner-take-all Game 3 in the wildcard series, the Mets blinked first late after the Brewers went back-to-back in the 7th. 2-0 Brewers skip ahead to the 9th inning. Here comes Devin Williams, arguably the best reliever in the game for the last 4 years, and I just remember watching this inning feeling something was off. Before Lindor even walked, I was just like, man, something doesn't feel right. And we later know now Williams was tipping his pitches. The Mets couldn't have been more on his changeup, and it led to Williams just failing to put them away. Brandon Nimmo sits back on the 2-strike change to slam it into center for a hit. 2 men on for Pete Alonso, who does the same, waits back on it and crushes it over the wall and right, just like that. The Brewers seem to have all the momentum, but unfortunately Williams wasn't deceiving enough on the mound, and it continued. A couple more Mets get on base. Marte drives home Jesse Winker, and it's just pure disaster in Milwaukee. The leadoff hitter did get on for the Brewers in the ninth, only for the next guy to strike out, and then a ball to be grounded and hit hard, but right at Lindor, who makes a great pick and running throw for the double play to end the game. Stunning silence in Milwaukee as the Mets come in ultra clutch again, and somehow Cleveland tops this game. Number 4, if the Guardians went on to win the ALCS against the Yankees, this would have been the game of all games, but because it's Cleveland and they can't get nice things, all they get is a Game 3 win. But hey, it was still great. It started off as what looked to be a nice big Game 3 win for the Guardians back home after losing the first 2 in New York. They put up 3 runs and held the Yankees offense quiet. Only 1 run, and with Cleveland now just 4 outs away from a win, Juan Soto takes a 4-pitch walk, and to not miss around, in comes 2024's best closer, Emmanuel Clase. The man who had a 0.64 ERA on the year, and had given up just 2 home runs throughout the entire regular season. So, when he soon gave up 2 in the matter of like 2 minutes to Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, yeah, it was wild. And for the Judge homer, it wasn't even a bad pitch, just elite level hitting by Judge to adjust to that 99-mile-an-hour cutter and hit it where it was, low and away and drive it out to right to tie it. The Stanton homer was a hanging slider. Cleveland threats to come back in the 8th, only for David Fry to strike out. Yankees get another run, now up 5-3 as their closer Luke Weaver looks to be rolling on to another save. Jose Ramirez hits a ball that eats up Anthony Rizzo for a leadoff hit, but just when you think the Guardians may have something going, Josh Naylor hits a grounder right back at Weaver for the double play. Rally killed. Guardians down to their final strike now, 0-2, on Lane Thomas before he takes 3 straight balls and then hits a fly ball high off the wall for a double. So Cleveland's still alive, but still down 2. Up comes pinch hitter Jean-Kenzie Noel, who to this point had done nothing all postseason. Well, that changed within 30 seconds as he hits an absolute bomb on the second pitch he sees to tie the game with a badass bat drop right after making contact. Boom. Out of absolutely nowhere, Cleveland ties the game, keeps the Yankees off the board in the 10th before David Fry gets another shot and doesn't put it to waste. 2 out, 2-run bomb to end it with a bat toss of his own. Unbelievable game. Number 3, the World Series we'd all been waiting for years. Dodgers, Yankees, and if you say you weren't, I don't believe you. I mean, since at least 2017, this has been the most predicted World Series. Now add Shohei to the mix, and it's bigger than we ever thought it would be. It started off with a pitching duel until the Dodgers struck first. It's 1-0, and then Stanton, the Yankees' biggest hitter during their postseason run, smacks a 2-run bomb. Dodgers later tied in the 8th, which was the start of the Dodgers taking big advantage of the Yankees' lack of fundamentals. Otani hits a double that easily should have stayed a double until the Yankees recklessly get the ball away from them, so he's able to get to third and then score on a sac fly. That doesn't happen if the Yankees are competent. They retake the lead in the 10th. We're in extra innings now to set up an all-time Dodger moment in the 9th. With LA now down to their final out, Freddie Freeman comes up with the bases loaded and takes the first pitch he sees from Nestor Cortez deep into the right field pavilion, almost identical to Kirk Gibson's Game 1 walk-off 36 years earlier, as the announcer Joe Davis even redoes the iconic Vin Scully call. Magic. Number 2. Some of you may get mad at me for this, but I don't care. It's when Shohei Otani went 6 for 6 with 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, with his second home run being his 50th to set a record, becoming the first ever player to hit 50 homers and steal 50 bases in a season. And I'm not sorry for making this a top moment. A lot of people hate on MLB for always promoting Shohei, thinking it's too excessive. And yeah, you know what? I agree. The first two-way player since Babe Ruth, the guy who's won 3 MVPs in the last 4 years. He's grown the game of baseball more than any player ever and has added so much worldwide excitement and hype. The audacity for MLB to promote him is beyond me. Yeah, this was one of, if not the most impressive games of all time from an individual standpoint and for how much Otani means to baseball. So it's up at number 2 for me. And we've now made it number 1. When the Dodgers were up 3-0 in the World Series, most people at that point were expecting it to end in 4 or 5 games, and that's exactly what happened. It ended in 5. But it was the way that it happened that was so wild and made it what I think is the most memorable moment of the year. Something nobody will ever forget. I mean, to this day, people are talking about that 5th inning. It's just not going to stop. I mentioned how in Game 1, the Yankees not being efficient in something so simple as the simplest of fundamentals, like having a ball get away that led to Otani going to third base instead of just a double. That cost them the game. And Game 5 was like that, but on steroids. And it all happened in one freaking inning. Garrett Cole was dominating. Aaron Judge and Jazz Chisholm went back-to-back earlier in the game. Giancarlo Stanton smacked one out. Aaron Judge, man, what a catch. If he can catch that, he can catch anything. Everything's coming up Yankees. Looks like they're about to force the series back to LA, have all the pressure on the Dodgers, until one of the most infamous innings ever takes place. After Kike Hernandez got the first Dodger base hit of the night, Tommy Edman hit a ball right at Aaron Judge. He drops it. Will Smith then grounds one to Volpe, who tries to get the lead runner at third but bounces it to Chisholm. Bases loaded, nobody out, and even after this, the Yankees looked like they were going to get out of it. He strikes out Lux and strikes out Otani, and now you're thinking, yeah, Cole's really going to get out of this. If Shohei couldn't come through, that's it. Then Mookie hits a harmless little grounder right to Rizzo, inning over until Rizzo realized he wasn't going to make it in time, and Garrett Cole wasn't even close to covering first base. Mookie gets to first safely, and it's 5-1, all downhill from here. 2 strikes on Freeman, base hit to center, 5-3. 2 strikes on Teoscar Hernandez, double over Aaron Judge's head, tie game. The Yankees did take back the lead in the 6th, but after that 5th, the Yankees were done. Kike starts off another successful rally now in the 8th with a base hit. They load the bases, and 2 sacrifice flies later, the Dodgers were back on top, now 6 outs away from a championship, which is where Blake Trinan then cemented what I call the Balls of Steel award. He had already pitched part of the 6th, all of the 7th, and after getting into trouble in the 8th, pitching way deeper into the game than he's used to, with the Dodgers holding on by a thread. They barely had anyone left to pitch in their team. He gutted his way out of it. Stanton pops up, Rizzo punches out, on to the 9th where Walker Buehler went 1-2-3 to give LA the championship. And it all began in that 5th. Never forget. Not that I need to remind anyone anyway. So that's my top 10. I want to finish off 2024 by giving a big thank you to all of you for your support over this last year. Whether you've watched one video, 100 videos, every video, liked them, disliked them, subscribed, told me I suck. Seriously, thank you. I get thank yous from you guys all the time, but you deserve the biggest of thank yous, as I can't do any of this without you and your support. Obviously, you're why I'm able to live out my dream, so I appreciate it more than you know. It's been a fun year, and I'm really excited for what 2025 has in store. We're just getting started. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next year.